Pakistan has launched a massive multi-billion-dollar project to turn its deserts into green. The goal is to use new canals to irrigate barren, government-owned wastelands to grow food, cut down on imports, and create jobs. It's called the Green Pakistan Initiative, and it's backed by the military. But as bulldozers roll in and deals are signed, concerns are already surfacing, from environmental risks to tensions between provinces. Now the plan is bold. Take parts of the Cholistan, Thal and Kutchi deserts and turn them into farmland. To do that, the government will draw water from the Indus river system, building 6 new canals in Punjab, KP, Sindh and Balochistan. The Director General of the project, Major General Shahid Nazir, says it's urgent. With the climate getting harsher and the population growing by day, droughts and unpredictable rainfalls are already stressing the existing farms. According to him, the number one priority is growing enough wheat at home and boosting textile exports. The target is to push cotton-related textile exports from $20 billion to around $35 billion in the next few years. The initiative also aims to cut down Pakistan's edible oil import bill, which currently stands at over $5.5 billion, by growing canola, sunflower and maize at home. And it's not just crops. The plan also includes livestock and fodder to export to Gulf countries. In KP and Gilgit-Baltistan, it includes trout farming, honey production, and sheep rearing, with a push for local community involvement. Now, once these crops and products hit the local market, the goal is to build enough surplus to export. But here's the big sticking point: water. Diverting more water for these projects has deepened an old conflict, especially with Sindh. As the lowest riparian province, Sindh says that these water diversions are a serious threat to its farms, drinking water, and the already endangered Indus Delta. And the numbers back that up. Between 1999 and 2003, Sindh faced a nearly 20% water shortfall, compared to Punjab's 13.7%. Critics also argue that the project favors big agri-businesses, sidelining small farmers and shifting the power into the hands of large corporations. But the Director General insists that the project focuses on cultivating state-owned wastelands and not private farms. He added that the provinces will still own the land. The operations, however, will be handled by Green Pakistan Cooperative, which is a company registered with the SCCP. According to Major General Nazir, agreements have already been signed with Sindh, Punjab and Balochistan, while talks with KP, Gilgit-Baltistan and Azad Jammu and Kashmir are still underway. He shared some big numbers: 811,000 acres in Punjab, 52,000 acres in Sindh and 26,000 acres in Balochistan have been allocated. 170,000 acres are already under cultivation. The Director General also pushed back on criticism that foreign investors are being favored. He said 99% of the partner companies are local, but still, doubts remain. Desert farming is expensive, and many fear that it may end up needing constant government support. Similar projects in Saudi Arabia and Egypt have only worked with heavy subsidies and came with major environmental risks. For Pakistan, which is already under economic stress, experts warn that this model may not be sustainable. Moving water over long distances, especially to dry, elevated regions, is not just expensive but also a risk for the environment.
You will be moving water against gravity from the Indus River system, most likely from the Chenab River, to maybe 300 to 400 kilometers eastwards, east and north, to the Cholistan Desert. Again, this can be done. Technologically, water can move against the gravity. But the project costs involved are eventually going to see cost overruns.
Now, Adi added that this region barely gets any rain, and major rivers have already been diverted to India under the Indus Water Treaty, which makes irrigation here both challenging and costly.
This project can also not survive without subsidies for a long time, because the capex and the operational cost of routinely moving water against gravity in an area which does not, by the way, receive any rain on its own, because it's a desert area, and also the natural river systems in that area have already been diverted into the Indus Water Treaty, which is the Satluj and Beas. So it is a highly expensive proposition.
But Adil did acknowledge that the demand for water for now is modest.
Can it be done? Yes. What is possibly right about this is that on paper, the reallocation that they are asking for is not too high. Pakistan receives around 100 million acre feet of surface canal water, and this project is only asking for a reallocation of 1 million acre feet. So in theory, on paper, they're not asking for a lot, and if modern farming techniques are applied in this project, yes, the trade-off on paper does not seem very bad. Can it happen? We still to find out.
But the bigger question is, will this project be carried out in letter and spirit, or will it drift off course?
It's possible that once they start cultivating the land, they may realize that barren deserts that do not receive rain and which do not also have natural surface water availability via rivers or canals such as Satluj and Beas, they may require a lot more water for irrigation and cultivation than is currently anticipated. If that is the case, there is institutional and power dynamics now involved. Once canals and irrigation systems are constructed, over time, there is, and given our governance failures, the history of governance failures, there is nothing that protects. There's no structural impediment that naturally or by default would protect the lower riparians in this case from more water over time being allocated out of their pool towards this project, because this project is more high priority and in theory is going to be more productive.
Activist Zulfikar Ali Bhutto Jr. has been sharply critical, calling the project not people-centered and labeling it a for-profit scheme for cash-crop irrigation.
The key concern is water. Will water reach us? And this is a concern because water has not been reaching us. And over the past few years, we have actually seen a consistent decrease in water levels coming to us. This is not a for-people scheme. It has never been a for-people scheme, and there is no intention of calling it a for-people scheme. This is a for-profit scheme for cash crop irrigation.
On the environmental front, experts warn that diverting water like this can lower groundwater, destabilize fragile ecosystems, and increase reliance on chemical fertilizers, all of which raises serious sustainability concerns.
We have destroyed our natural habitats across the Indus Basin, not just at the delta, more so at the delta, but across the Indus Basin. We need to restore the environment. The 2010 floods and the 2022 floods have shown us again and again that the constructions across the Indus Basin, the bringing of under cultivation, the riverine and belt areas, which have been allocated in many cases legally and officially by the government of Pakistan or the provincial government or the provincial governments, respective provincial governments.
In response to the environmental concerns, the Director General clarified that the Cholistan Canal won't run year-round. It will operate only 6 months a year, and only with surplus monsoon water from River Satluj and a monitoring by IRSA. Now, Bhutto argues that when river water flows to the sea, it creates rich, fertile coastal land.
When water goes to the sea, you have an arable coastline. The delta of the Nile, the coast of Egypt, is more fertile than the entire area that stretches the Nile on either side, because the river pushes the seawater back, creating a suitable atmosphere, not just land that has fresh water, but even a suitable atmosphere that is not saline, in which multiple crops can grow throughout the year.
He pointed to coastal towns like Keti Bandar and Shah Bandar, but now being abandoned as seawater pushes inland, swallowing thousands of acres.
And the problem is that we, for the sake of one part of Pakistan, we are depriving many parts of Pakistan from having fresh water, and we're seeing this in Keti Bandar. Towns like Keti Bandar, Shah Bandar are being abandoned. Thousands of acres of land are being lost to the sea, and these thousands of acres of land could have been actively used for year-round agriculture, such as rice, such as wheat. So when the climate is affected, so are we, so is our capacity for production of food. When we talk about the ecology, we are not separate from it. I think a lot of people have shown resistance to me to say, well, you talk about birds and trees, and what about us? The problem is we are the birds and trees. we depend on the land that is being affected. So to talk about ecology is to talk about agriculture, it is to talk about our own sustainability. So the thing is, when you stop water from going to the sea, you interrupt the entire hydrological cycle.
Bhutto also linked ecological decline to reduced rainfall and glacier formation since the 1970s, following the construction of Karbela and Kotri Dam.
If already so far upstream, Mangla Dam is in Kashmir, it's not even in Punjab. If so far upstream we don't have water, how can you expect us to, one, divert water in Cholistan, and two, have water in Sindh? So we're already seeing the climate being tremendously affected.
The Sindh government shares these concerns. Spokesperson Mustafa Baloch claimed that Sindh suffered a 40% water shortage in 2023-2024.
Well, the Sindh government has clearly, raised their point of view that construction of new canals without consent of the province, especially Sindh, is not justified, because already there is an acute shortage of water in the Indus, and we have certain reservations that if new canals are built, then there will be more shortage of water.
Yet despite this, President Asif Ali Zardari, who is the co-chairperson of Sindh's ruling Pakistan People's Party, had given the green light to the 6 Canals project. Now, this is a striking example of how national development goals clash with provincial reality.
We are not doing this because of public protest. We are with the public, and we have been given huge mandate, and we hold the majority in the province. So we have the public support, and we are raising this concern because we are being affected as a province. And we will never let the public face such kind of challenges, and the farmers should not be facing such kind of challenges, because I think water is a very important aspect in agriculture, and I think if in coming days we'll face such kind of shortages increasingly in the province, so definitely we will be affected.
The Major General acknowledged these concerns, saying that both provincial and federal governments are working on solutions. He also maintained that no canal was drawing water from the Indus River for these projects. But old mistrust still hangs over this project. Critics say that the Green Pakistan initiatives has moved along without involving key platforms like the Council of Common Interest or the 1991 Water Accord, deepening provincial unease. And Adil added that without credible safeguards, fears will only grow. He also pointed out that the water inequality doesn't only exist between provinces, but it exists within provinces as well.
There's also obviously politics involved in this. Yes, there is inequity in water distribution, but if there is inequity and possibly water is being stolen between provinces, if that were to be the case, the tail ender within the Sindh suffers multiple times more, or by a far more magnitude than the landlord sitting at the canal head within the Sindh province. Moreover, you do not see the large landlords within Sindh suffering from the same level of water stress or lack of cultivation altogether, or having to leave their lands barren, the way tail enders or those in the southernmost regions of Sindh have been suffering from. So that means that there may be ample water available at the provinces level or the provincial level, but the distribution within the provinces is also not very equitable. But it becomes easier instead to blame the other, and the other at the federal or national level becomes India, the other at the provincial levels becomes the upper riparian, and so on.
A major sticking point in all this has been consultation. Many see that the affected communities were left out of the conversation, which risks fueling tensions and weakening the legitimacy of this project. Now, Bhutto says that there is no transparency, no explanation on how and why these decisions are being made.
If we've lost 40% of our land due to waterlogging and salinity caused directly by canals, who's to say that this land will not be compromised in Cholistan as well? And also, there's no transparency to the project. No local experts were consulted. If experts were consulted, we certainly don't know who they are, and we cannot say for certain what the government is even doing. for us to make any certain claims ourselves.
Across Sindh, protests have broken out. Communities are mobilizing to protect their water rights. Bhutto says that the commitment is deep and the people of Sindh are determined to protect Indus River.
What was a trickle has become a deluge of voices against these canals, and that public pressure has been seen in the fact that for the first time the PPP, the ruling government of Sindh, who has been given the responsibility of taking care of the people of Sindh, finally said, actually, we are against the canals. We were double-crossed. We're not for the canals. But nobody believes it, because we have the documents. We see the documents. These are public documents that have Asif Ali Zardari's signature, that have the PPP signature, that have the PMLN signature. And I think of these documents not as documents, but as receipts to the sale of our water rights to Punjab.
In the end, the Green Pakistan initiative will only succeed if it builds trust between the center and the provinces, the government and its people. Because the goal of food security should not come at the cost of water injustice.